Welcome to the Living While Loving Your Child Through Addiction podcast. Here, we focus on self care while tending to our own lives, while also extending love and compassion to our kids. This podcast offers science backed skills to bring hope and healing to your entire family. So, before I get started on today's topic, I want to thank everybody who left a review recently. I got 2 new reviews after I asked for reviews on the last podcast episode. Excuse me. And a lot of people tell me that they want to leave a review, but they don't know how to do it. So I found a short video. It's less than 1 minute. I tried to make my own. I'm not great at that. So I found one that another podcaster made. It's less than a minute. It's perfect. It shows you exactly how to leave a review. So I'm going to put a link to that in the episode show notes. And I've also had a lot of people tell me that they don't know what I mean when I refer to the episode show notes. Each episode has a written description that tells you what is in the episode. That is the episode show notes. I always put relevant links in those show notes. So that's where you find the link for signing up for a road to recovery call with me, or to sign up for my new guide, a new perspective about enabling. There's also going to be a link in there for my Boundaries Masterclass. I just scheduled one for the end of August. I give away everything I know about boundaries in that free Boundaries Masterclass. It's not just a taste of what you need to know, it is a 5-course meal. And you will walk away from that class knowing how to set a boundary that aligns with your values and actually feels good to you because you are completely clear on why you set that boundary, and you can do it with love in your heart. So check out the show notes so that you can get registered. All of those things are also always on my website, heatherrosscoaching.com. You can find those links there as well if you're still confused about what the show notes are. All right, on with today's episode. I want to talk about something that parents really struggle with because our society says that we need to approach substance use disorder with confrontation. And if you are constantly confronting, then you're enabling substance use. So it feels like you can't spend any time with your child without talking about the business. And the business is all of the doctors or therapist appointments that they need to make, their legal troubles, medications, money, employment, you know, everything that's on that huge running list of things that you think that they need to take care of right away. And you feel like if you aren't constantly talking about those things, then you are ignoring it or giving up, or they're going to think that you're just okay with everything when you are not okay with things at all. And it feels like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because when you are constantly in that mode of confronting and bringing up all the business all the time, you push your child away. But if you try to pretend that there isn't anything going on, there's not this big giant elephant in the room, and that you're okay with said elephant being there, you're plagued with feelings of guilt that you're doing something wrong. Like literally nothing feels right. And it's this vicious cycle. I got caught up in it myself where we feel like at least we're doing something, right? Even if we talk about it and it's backfiring, at least we're doing something because we just don't know what else to do. And I used to believe that if I wasn't constantly confronting, then I wasn't doing my job as a mom, and that my daughter might think that I was okay with what was going on, which is hilarious. I can't even imagine how she possibly could have thought that I was okay with any of it after all of the times I had made it abundantly clear that I was not. But that's how fear works, right? It's not always rational. And it took me years to concede to the idea that confronting over and over again was not changing anything. It was just creating more shame, more avoidance, more hiding. It left me completely depleted and spinning out, filled with guilt. And then sometimes I was the one doing the avoiding. I just didn't want to see her because I didn't want to have to deal with having to confront her or not confronting her or whatever, all the confusion and pain and fear that brought up. So I would just spend 60 hours a week at work. It was no way to live my life. But finally, I found some helpful resources that got me out of that cycle. And I'm going to say that the solution for this dilemma has two parts. Number one is a perspective shift about what is actually helpful and what isn't. And number two is a balanced approach that actually works. So for number one, let's get that perspective shift from science and talk about motivation to change. Every single interaction that we have with our kids, especially during this struggle, either helps to build the motivation or it chips away at their motivation. So let me say that again. Every interaction either builds motivation or increases resistance. So if you're constantly confronting, you're constantly increasing resistance. It puts your son or daughter in a defensive state where they either shut down, push back just for the sake of pushing back, whether they mean what they say or not, or they just pretend to go along with what you're saying just to get you off their back. But none of that creates change. It just wears everybody out, could be leading to a lot of volatility like it did in my home. But when a person is using substances, their brain is being rewarded in a very powerful way chemically by the substance. We're talking dopamine, endorphins, all of those feel good emotions that the humans love to have coursing through their brain. So if the relationship with us is mostly about tension, pressure, disappointment, that volatility I just mentioned, what reason would they have to lean into us? Not only are we not a reward, we're a punishment. We're the opposite of that. We're to be avoided. There's no motivation to come closer. The motivation is to avoid us at all costs. Now, I want you to think about how you feel when you're around people who don't understand what you're going through. This is why so many parents isolate, because I hear this all the time. You do not want to be around people who don't understand what you're going through, who judge you, who give you bad advice, who think that they could fix it if they were in this situation. So you avoid those people. I mean, it's the same thing with our kids avoiding us for similar reasons. So we want to create a more rewarding relationship. Now, I'm not saying to ignore reality. That does not mean that you ignore what's happening. It means that you balance those hard conversations with connection, compassion, curiosity, respect, love, because that's what builds influence. That helps with motivation. That creates the kind of relationship where your son or daughter can come to you and be vulnerable and actually admit that they're struggling and that they need help, that they can be completely honest with you. So again, we don't ignore, we just change our approach to a very intentional, skilled one that is meant to create better results. This comes up all the time in the group. We were talking about this in the Peace of Mind group recently, where one of the moms shared how she was trying so hard to do everything right, all of the things that she felt that she had to do, checking her daughter's phone, checking her room, confronting her every time she saw her, bringing up all the things that needed to be done differently or taken care of. Mom's exhausted, daughter's avoiding her completely. And so when we talked about motivation and how shame and pressure decrease the likelihood of change, something clicked in that mom. And she said, "Oh, I just didn't think that I could stop doing those things without giving up." And that's the part that often gets missed. Choosing not to confront every single time doesn't mean that you're giving up. It means that you are being strategic, like a family recovery ninja. So, what do you do instead? This is part two of the solution. Instead of confronting every single time, you take a strategic, balanced approach. Balance is the key here. Do not get overly focused on one approach. You want to use a balance of all of your tools, right? You don't build a house just with a hammer. You use a lot of different tools to build a well-constructed house. So you might start with positive communication, the kind where your child can actually hear you because you're not just coming at them with everything that is wrong. It can be as simple as saying, "Oh, I'm glad that you're home," instead of, "Where have you been?" Or listening without giving advice or without trying to change how they feel. Practice that active listening or reflecting back to them what you heard them say, some kind of validation of their experience. It also means looking for even the smallest moments that something went well where you can reinforce non-substance using behavior to make it more rewarding. If they go to work on time, go for a walk with a friend, come to a family dinner, you notice it and you acknowledge it. And then that sends the message that, hey, I see all of you. I see the good things that you're doing too, and those things matter. And that also helps you and your emotional well being, your ability to stay in this for the long run. When you're noticing the good things, it's very helpful to you too. And another thing that's just as important, maybe I'm going to say even more important, is taking care of and regulating your own nervous system. So if you're always in fight or flight, you're always wound up on high alert, that's going to make you much more likely to react instead of respond. And reactions definitely come out much sharper than we intend them to. But when you're regulated and you can choose your words, your tone, your body language, your timing, everything lands better. Boundaries are also an important part of this. Not the kind of boundaries that come from fear or anger or punishment, but boundaries that come from love, that are there to protect you, to protect the relationship, not to control. When you set a boundary calmly and follow through on it consistently, you show your child you live by example of what healthy limits are. And this is something that we talk about in the Boundaries That Create Connection Masterclass that I talked about earlier in the episode, the one you're going to sign up for. And again, connection matters, even when everything is still messy. You could just sit next to each other, share a meal, watch a show, just sitting together, being in each other's presence without everything being about the business and everything that's wrong. And those moments might feel small, but they can make the difference between your child seeing you as somebody who is safe versus somebody to avoid. And allowing safe, natural consequences can help as well. When we constantly lecture or punish, and we're always trying to point out those natural consequences, we interrupt that process of them making a connection between what they did and the outcome of it or the consequence of it. So instead of making that connection that my choice led to this unpleasant result, they think, oh, I feel this way because you won't stop nagging at me. And then they're just mad at you. So you're actually being counterproductive and distracting them from what you want to see when you're constantly confronting. But when you step back and allow those safety is important here. You don't have to allow every single natural consequence, right? You get to decide which ones are right for you or appropriate for your family. But when you step back and you allow those safe natural consequences, you give the situation room to teach them without you even having to be the bad guy. I'm all about if there's somebody else or something else that can be the bad guy, let it. Like, give yourself that break. When I learned this, it completely changed my role. It changed my beliefs actually about parenting in general. I didn't have to be the prison warden anymore. I didn't have to constantly be the enforcer. I could hold my boundaries, but I could also be the person that was believing in my daughter even when she was struggling and didn't believe in herself. And eventually, I became somebody that she trusted and could talk to and admit things to me that she never would have admitted before, that she would have vehemently denied. But eventually, she trusted that she could open up to me and those things would not be used against her. So, again, this is not about ignoring what is happening or giving somebody a pass. It is about creating an environment where motivation and change are more likely, an environment that builds trust, where you can have influence rather than constant resistance and distance and avoidance. And yes, it does feel uncomfortable and counterintuitive at first, especially when you've been told your whole life that substance use needs tough love and confrontation and all these other negative stigmas that we hear. So be patient with yourself. Expect it to be uncomfortable, and that's okay. So I want you to remember that the solution to this question, if I'm not confronting, am I enabling, has two parts. We're just reviewing here. Step one, is that perspective shift, understanding that every single interaction is either building motivation or increasing resistance, and that the research is clear. Constant confrontation increases resistance. It does not move your child towards change. It pushes them away from it. And that is not just my opinion. This is backed by many studies um, on the science of behavior change and motivation. Step 2 is a skilled, balanced approach. Practicing positive communication, reinforcing the behaviors you want to see more of, taking care of your own nervous system, setting boundaries from love, building connection even when things are hard, allowing safe, natural consequences. These are the tools that increase motivation and create the kind of environment where change is more likely to happen. Again, this is not just based on my experience. Even though I've lived this and seen the positive results from it, these approaches are all supported by countless studies in psychology, neuroscience, addiction science. These strategies work because they tap into how human motivation actually functions, not how we wish or think it should work. So you are not giving up by doing this. You are not pretending that there is not a problem there. You are shifting into a role that makes you more influential, more stable, better example, and more likely to be somebody that your child will come to when they're ready for help. Again, it's not easy. It takes practice, but it is worth it. If this is something that you want help with, you can schedule a road to recovery call with me. We will explore what is possible for you and your family with support from somebody who understands what this is like to go through this. You do not have to navigate this alone. And again, the link is in the show notes on my website. Until next time, remember that taking care of yourself is not a luxury, it is a necessity because you matter too.